Hi guys, welcome to the next edition of YarninBlak. Today I've got a really special guest speaker on Dr Morley Muse. So first I just want to say hi Morley.
Hi AJ, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. It was a little bit hard for us to connect, but we finally got there.
I know.
Before we do start, I might just throw over to you just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So I'm Molly. I'm an engineer. My engineering background is a bit broad. I studied a bachelor's in chemical and environmental engineering from the University of Nottingham. I went on to complete a master's in sustainable power engineering, looking at the different renewable systems, comparing them. And 2 years ago, I completed a Ph.D. in environmental engineering. My research focused on extracting microalgae waste from our water ponds and converting that to electricity through a process called anaerobic digestion, which is not new. So anaerobic digestion is a process where you break down microbes. So basically what happens is the bacteria from the wastewater breaks down the algae and produces biogas, which is predominantly 70% of methane that can then be used for energy production. But the problem is the algae have very tough cell walls. So my research focused on breaking down the cell walls and maximizing gas production. So in terms of expertise, that's what I do, or that's what I've done. These days, I do a lot of consulting around renewable hydrogen production and renewable energy, cogeneration strategies, and, just renewables. I'm very passionate about alternative energy and clean energy. The other thing that I do is I sit on the board with Women in STEM Australia, which is one of the largest not-for-profit women in STEM groups. And I'm also the co-founder of iSTEM. iSTEM Co. iSTEM is a research consulting and talent sourcing company that enables employment for women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So including women of color and women from CALD backgrounds. So we work with STEM companies to really help them to improve their team of diverse women. Why do we do that? It's because obviously there's an underrepresentation of women in STEM, which I believe we'll explore further in this podcast. And on top of that, I also sit on the board with the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering, ATSE, on a unique program called Elevate STEM, which really is an initiative to drive and promote scholarships, to deliver scholarships for women in STEM from undergraduate up to postgraduate. So you can say I'm a big believer in STEM. I've got this here that shows, it says STEM is cool. So yeah, I love women, I love people, I love STEM, and I believe that everyone should be given an opportunity.
Yeah. And have you been seeing many women get into the field of science, engineering, technology?
Look, yes. The number of women getting into the field has been slowly increasing, not as at the pace that we should have it. But I think the biggest issue, it's not just about women getting in, but it's actually on women staying. So I'll talk about this in 3 different dimensions, right? So the first one is girls studying STEM. Before now, we had this preconception, this knowledge that, girls didn't want to study STEM. But when we rolled out the Elevate STEM program last year, we found out that we had 1,050 applications and we had just 50 spaces. So literally, there was just like just around 5% success rate. So it wasn't just about, the women not wanting to study STEM. We had overwhelmingly women wanting to study STEM, but now we didn't even have enough scholarships to give out. Now, when you go down to the women working in STEM, that's where the biggest challenge is. So in terms of growth, in 2016, we had only 24% of women working in STEM across Australia. In 2020, from the Australian STEM Workforce Report by the chief scientist, we had 29% of women working in STEM, which grew by 5% in 4 years, which is commendable. But in saying that, there are still several issues, around women working in STEM, especially some sectors have even a higher underrepresentation, like engineering, construction, mining. According to Engineers Australia data, it's only 11.3% of female engineers working in STEM. But I guess what's even more intriguing about the statistics, or what's more shocking about the statistics, is the fact that 56% of Australian women who have STEM qualification are Australian women born overseas, but they experience over 4 times higher unemployment rates.
Oh, wow.
So the problem is not just studying STEM, but being employed and then staying in STEM.
Yeah.
It's been International Women's Week, International Women's Month. So I've had multiple speaking engagements. And what when I get asked the question is, why do we have few women in leadership, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? This is it. This is what I say to them. Women do not stay long enough in their places of employment to actually grow. So if they don't grow, they can't become leaders.
Yeah.
So yes, we've improved, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. And last year for you was an amazing kind of year, wasn't it? Like, I know that you got the Emerging Leader in STEM award, a Social Impact Award. You're the finalist for Women's in Digital Awards, and you're also the finalist for the Victoria University Rising Star Award. How can you top that this year?
Look, I think last year and then this year, or moving on, it's just been, I would say, iceberg moments. So when we see an iceberg, at the top, it just appears that that's all you can see, right? But you have to understand that what you see is just 10% of the story.
Yeah.
What you don't see is 90% that is, embedded in water. So that 90% involves hard work, resilience, persistence, diligence. I've had a very challenging journey, AJ. And I think through all of that, that's actually built me or prepared me for the journey ahead, because I wouldn't say I'm there yet. I think we're all like a work in progress. But I'm very hopeful for the future. I literally started my PhD 3 weeks after having my first son.
Wow.
Yes. So that was very, very challenging because I didn't have any family. It was just myself and my husband. And it was really tough.
What brought you to Australia? Why did you come to Australia?
Unskilled migration, opportunities, just like, we migrate for opportunities, post-masters. In Cardiff. So I moved to Australia from Cardiff almost 11 years ago now. I actually got an opportunity to do a PhD. So I'd already started. And then I heard that, Australia was looking for skilled engineers. And I thought I've always been a risk taker.
Yep.
I'm not afraid of risks, right? This is my theory in life. You could only get 3 answers. Yes, no, maybe. And they're all very good.
Yep.
They're all very good. Yes, okay, good. You go for it. If it's a no, don't waste your time. You keep going until you get a yes. If it's a maybe, then if you modify things a little bit, you could perhaps get a yes. So
Yep.
I don't, how I view life is, and this theory of mine has really helped me to overcome disappointments, and just really made me to move on. So Going back, last year was incredibly, I guess for me, it was really humbling. That's the word I would say, because like I said, I've experienced a lot of challenges through my PhD journey. 3 years into the journey, I was pregnant with my second son, and then I lost my eldest sister. That was very hard, you know. I'd already lost my mom before moving to Australia. And then when that happened, that really shattered me, because my intention was, oh, I'll wrap up my experiments quickly. And then during the time I'm not seeing my baby, I will just, put together my reports. But when that happened, I really lost it, because my PhD was a very difficult one. It wasn't one of those PhDs where you sit in front of a computer. Like, I literally had to go to the lab. I spent enormous time in the lab, and sometimes I would get home 11 p.m. at night just because, I was still in the lab doing experiments. And then 2 months before my thesis was due, I lost my second sister. And on top of this, I was doing all of the STEM leadership stuff. So that's what I'm saying. It's been like really, really, it was a very challenging journey. I didn't know if I was going to be able to even meet up. But somehow, by some miracle, I was able to submit a day before it was due. And, post PhD, again, it was challenging, because post PhD, I had, my last baby. So I've got 3 boys.
Yeah.
And I worked in consulting and in construction. At the time, I was pregnant. So that's when I really realized that there is a lot of work to be done. So for me, my PhD was also like, I used the opportunity to build other areas of my life. I wasn't just studying. Like, I really used the opportunity to build my leadership experience in STEM. And how it all started, with seeing that, as a student at Victoria University, I was surprised that the university has existed for 100 years, but there wasn't a club on campus where women in science came together. So I co-founded that. I founded the Women in STEM and in Science and Engineering Club at Victoria Uni, which was difficult because I was based in Werribee, but I literally had to go to Footscray, to make this happen. And then through that, I also got involved with Women in STEM Australia, was working in the background, in the scenes, and then eventually I got on the board. So why am I saying all this? Last year, it just seemed like everywhere you look, oh, Molly, with, several awards. But that didn't start last year. That started 7 years ago, all of the challenges, the hard work, the persistence, the resilience. So I'm really grateful. And I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah. I do want to say congratulations on being a finalist and for winning the awards as well. I need to say that while I'm here as well.
And congrats to you as well. I'm a big fan. So.
Oh, thanks. A couple of questions. Where did you grow up initially?
I was born in Nigeria, West Africa. I was born in the southern parts of Nigeria, lived there until I left home after high school at around 17.
Yeah.
It's been 18 years now since I left, home. And it's just been an incredible journey. I've, lived in maybe 5 countries, Nigeria, the US, the UK, Malaysia, and Australia. So I like to see myself as a global citizen rather than, just being, I don't know, like, I'm very, very proud of my heritage, being a Nigerian woman from southern Nigeria, from Rivers State, married to someone from Lagos State. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm also proud of the places that has shaped and informed the person that I've become, which is, the United Kingdom, US, Malaysia, and a lot of it has been Australia. So this is home now. And, I've embraced my new home, my new country, and I want to do my best in really ensuring that, I contribute to our global economy.
Yeah. Question I've got is because you studied in 3 countries, what's the difference between the study like in like studying? You did your PhD in Australia, did your masters in UK. What was the difference in the study load or study life or university life?
I guess it might be a bit difficult for me to say honestly, because a PhD is very different from, like a bachelor's or a master's, because a PhD in a lot of ways is very isolated, because you're not really mingling so much with the rest of the student community. Like literally, you have to make yourself to mingle. You have to put yourself out there, which is what I did. So I don't know if my comparisons would be, I guess, like, I don't know if I'll be able to, if there will be efficient enough in comparing this to places, because but in saying that, what I think is, in a lot of ways, studying in Australia is very similar to studying in the UK. But with the PhD journey, I think there is still there's still a gap or a lack of understanding of, or appreciating the PhD journey in Australia compared to the UK or to the US. It's very different. There is a lot more understanding and awareness in the UK of the PhD journey. In the US as well, there's a lot more appreciation for that. But in Australia, at least in engineering, there's still that gap, which there has been a lot of focus on research commercialization, which I think would be one of the solutions for us in Australia to really appreciate the innovation and the addition to knowledge that a PhD brings.
Yeah. Have you experienced racism, discrimination in any of the countries that you've been at?
Look, racism, discrimination. For me, I like to see myself as a bumblebee. I actually have a photo of a bumblebee in my home office. Now, a bumblebee, from the laws of physics and aerodynamics, is not meant to fly.
Yeah.
Because of how it's shaped. It's not shaped for flight. It's not designed for flight. But here's the thing. The bumblebee doesn't know that. So the bumblebee just flies anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't, I think sometimes it can take a lot of mental baggage and load when, you go through life looking at all of those. I'll take, for example, some of mine. I've got some very good friends in St. Louis, Missouri. In 2014, I invited my friend and our kids to Australia. And the first thing a daughter asked me is, do they like Black people? It really made me, it almost brought tears to and I told her, look, you don't have to care if they like you or not. The most important thing is, you know your worth, you know your relevance, and you just have to do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. I guess for me, I'm really, really passionate about people, and I love to see an equitable society. And that's the main reason why I do what I do. Going back to the statistics, I saw a problem. I saw that 56% of university qualified females in STEM in Australia are Australian women born overseas, which will be predominantly women of color or, women from CALD. Mm. But they experience over 4 times higher unemployment rates, which is very sad considering, when you turn on TV, it's almost like every day you keep hearing about the STEM skills shortage we have in Australia. And it makes me begin to wonder, do we really have a STEM skills shortage? Or do we have a lack of open-mindedness to actually absorb the people who can get the job done?
Yeah.
Last year, we had the Jobs and Skills Summit in Canberra. And again, there was a lot of emphasis on the STEM skills shortage. And it's interesting how our politicians pride themselves on how multicultural Australia is, which is true, except, of course, that doesn't reflect in certain areas of our society, in leadership, in STEM, in politics, in the key areas, And, what I tell people is diversity is the new innovation.
Yeah.
If you have diverse pool of people in the community, it is very, very important for you to have those in leadership. Otherwise, you make decisions that are skewed.
Yeah.
Take, for example, the story of Nokia and Kodak. What happened? Their lack of innovation and their lack of, their inability to embrace the digital age at the time, eventually led to their downfall. And this age, we're in the age where people are migrating, people are moving, like the world is becoming a global village, a very small place. Maybe 30 years ago, none of us dreamt that we could have, a cell phone in our hands and we could be able to call someone at one end of the world. Today we have that.
Yeah.
If we are making it easy, so this is what's happening in Australia, right? I bet you and I challenge you, get into an Uber, have a chat with the Uber driver. You most likely find he's probably a software engineer or he's an IT professional, in his own country. Now, people come here on skilled migration in areas like aged care, disability, childcare, Uber, cleaning. We don't give them any restrictions. We say everyone can work as long as you have full work rights in Australia.
Yeah.
Now, when we go to professional spaces in engineering, in medicine, in healthcare, in nursing, we have all these restrictions where people can't apply their skills. So going back to your question about racism and discrimination, I guess it's there. I wouldn't deny that it's there. Look, I've had someone say to me, in my very first job in Australia, I had a teammate sitting next to me, and she went to this website that was obviously racist. And she said, what happens if you put your hand in a bag filled with black jelly beans? And then the joke goes, you'll get your wristwatch smashed. So I pretended like I wasn't, listening to what she was saying. And then a friend asked her and said, Tiffany, what does that mean? And she said, oh, it means that all black people are criminals. And I was sitting next to her. I paused. I took 5 minutes to really digest, what she had said. And then I looked at her and I told myself, which is one thing my dad, told me, that when you find the opportunity, you should use that. Channel your anger into use.
Yeah.
Our emotions are energies. And what do we know about energy? Physics says that energy can't be created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed. So every energy can be good. It depends on how we channel it. Think about a tsunami. There's a lot of hydropower in a tsunami, but it's all over, so you can't use it. But when you bring and convert that energy together and it hits a turbine, then what happens? It spins and then you generate electrical power, right? So I paused. I thought to myself, and I told myself, I'm not going to get angry because Tiffany is ignorant. What I'm going to do is educate her. So I called her aside and I told her, look, Tiffany, we are buddies. And I know that normally if I, went up to HR, you'll get into trouble for what you said, because I was the only Black person, in the entire workplace. But I'm not going to do that. And then I took the time to really reorientate her mind, educate her. I was surprised the very next day, she came to work with this long, full scarf she had written this long letter of apology. And I told her, look, thank you for doing that. But to be honest, and then she was really shocked that I didn't pay her back in a bad sense or report her to HR or whatever. But after that, we became very good friends. And obviously, I think to a large extent, that really changed her outlook on how she viewed Black people. That was a scene that would have been disastrous, but I turned that and, to an opportunity to educate. So that's why I tell people from marginalized backgrounds, you might experience these things, but do you see it as an opportunity to educate people, or do you see it as an opportunity to continue the anger? Because, we all have that tendency, and look, it doesn't lead anywhere, but it could also be an opportunity for good, depending on how we choose to handle the situation.
Do you think there are stereotypes out there about African people?
There are stereotypes everywhere about everyone. We all hold stereotypes.
Yeah.
And last year's International Women's Day, we talked about breaking the bias. And the truth is, look, we all have biases. Even within multicultural communities, there's still the bias. There's a lot of misconception as well, because unfortunately, bad news or fake news, as Donald Trump put it, people love fake news, and people love things that help them to fall their stereotypes. So there are stereotypes. There are stereotypes about everyone. But it's really about us taking time to educate ourselves, to ask questions, ask relevant questions, and see each individual's contribution to the society rather than generalizing, and then when we look forward and we really introspect, we will find that we are all very similar in so many ways, even though we are all very different, So for me, I try to see life beyond the lens of race.
Mm. I like what you said before a bit about, Australia gets multiculturalism, but they're still struggling a lot with diversity in different areas. But I also think they struggle with inclusion. And I think some organisations have moved from multiculturalism to diversity, but they still are not very good at inclusion yet.
Yes. Look, that's the biggest problem that we're having in STEM, not just for multicultural people, but even for women. Some of the companies that I work with, they tell me that they've got attrition rates sometimes of up to 70%. You know what that means, AJ? They would employ 100 people knowing that 70 would leave before 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, these are like big multinational companies. And, if you have that kind of system, you're spending a lot of money, and it's almost like you're fetching water with a basket.
Mm.
And the reason is because there are several reasons. You see, businesses push hard for diversity, but they do not create places of inclusion.
Yeah.
As a result, people don't stay, especially women. I'm talking from STEM because that's my play field. That's my expertise. Women, more so women of color, women from CALT backgrounds. They can't stay because, like you said, inclusion is the biggest problem. And inclusion is directly linked to retention.
Yeah.
People use the term diversity, equity, and inclusion. For us at iSTEM, we added another term to it, and we called it retention.
Yeah.
We actually launched a new platform called DARE, which stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Retention. And our key message is this: we are saying to companies that we are daring you to dare.
Yeah, I like that.
And this is just, our way of really improving retention. Because unfortunately, why are we seeing this problem? Why is this problem persisting? You see, some of the business leaders of big companies that are like the diversity and inclusion representatives, they've never faced racism. They would never face discrimination. They don't know what bias is, which in some ways is okay, right? Not okay, but I mean, it can be okay. Now, if you are a business leader and you're heading that aspect of your business and you've never experienced these things, when you're a leader, essentially you're representing people with these experiences, right? If you have no lived experience of these issues, then it is very important for you to consult with the people who have experienced these things. In that way, you're better informed. Your thinking is a lot more informed, and you have a lot more awareness and knowledge to be able to tackle these issues and really support the people within your organizations that would. Because oftentimes what happens is when people face issues like bias, discrimination at work, these are very difficult conversations to have. We have to also appreciate that. But sometimes when you go to HR, you know what HR says? Go to EAP.
Yeah, because you're the problem.
Yeah. And the truth is, you're not having a mental breakdown like in any other area of your life. You're having a breakdown because of the conditions that has been created in your workplace. So that's why at iSTEM, this is really, really, and we are very big on solutions. One thing you must know about me, AJ, is if there is a problem, if I can't fix it, I don't speak about it.
Yeah.
If there is an issue around me, I try my best to fix it. And if I can't, I don't speak about it. And that's really, I guess, my way of giving back and, living for something beyond myself. And that's why I've chosen to tackle this. So one of the things that we really do, just to address, your question, one of the things that we do at iSTEM is we started there. So there have 6 unique features. The first one is anonymous recruitment. A lot of women of color, women from CALD background, one of the big problems why they can't even get employed. I'm not talking about staying employed now, because staying employed, it's an issue that is very common even among women in STEM. But even getting employed, this is the biggest barrier that women of color face. Are things like their names. Do you know people have to change their names to English names to get through the door?
Yeah.
So we have completely removed that. So what we did is, as a candidate, when you come to our platform and you create your profile, we've got a filtering tool that filters off your name, your bio data, like your name, your age, if your education was gotten outside Australia. So when an employer comes into the platform and they are looking for, say, software engineers, they can see your skills, they can see your qualification, but those elements that will make them discriminate you, we've completely removed them. That's the first step.
Yeah.
And why we did this is because for us to really see transformative change, not just change, but transformative change, we have to have disruptive mechanisms in place. And this is one of the ways we have chosen to disrupt the industry. The second one is ethical job posts. A lot of tech companies complain that women do not apply for their jobs. And it's because sometimes the language that they use to post jobs are not inclusive. So in our platform, we check that, you have inclusive language, your job posts are ethical, you've got the right policies in place, like parental leave and those sorts, to really promote retention and inclusivity. The other thing is we've got a standardized interview process and ensuring that the same methods are used to interview every candidate. And then, of course, we endorse employers that are doing it right. But we don't want employers that will simply come to our platform to buy the endorsement, because that's not what we want to see. So we have two separate categories of endorsement. The first one is a commitment badge. So when you come in, and you're committed to get more women into your organization, we say, oh yeah, this company, we endorse you for your commitment. But the other one is we look through your books and your record, your reports, to actually see what's the percentage of women that have been retained within your organization. And then we give you a tick. So women know that this is a company where they should be. So these are the ways in which we can really bring change and transformation to these issues. The other two things that we launched last year was a tryout to recruit program and a mentoring retention program. So the tryout, just as the name implies, is a 3 months, 6 months internship for companies to really try out candidates. And if they like them, after that period, they keep them. If you don't like, there is no obligation to hire. And the cohort of women who we employ in this program is very diverse. From women who are recent graduates, to women who have taken a career break, wanting to come back into the industry, to women who have been in academia, wanting to gain some industry experience, or to women who are skilled overseas migrants. They've come in from overseas with a lot of qualification, with a lot of skills, but no one will give them an opportunity. We want to change that. And then we also then have our mentoring retention program. The mentoring retention program is really to drive and promote retention. So we work with your early career professionals that are women of color and women from CALD. And we have workshops that are tailored to really build their confidence, to really build their leadership skills within your organization and really ensure that they stay in your company. So these are some of the initiatives that we run in our business.
They sound awesome. I wish you could remodel some of those and make them compulsory in most organizations.
We could. It would be great to get, partnerships with the government, with, a lot of STEM organizations. We are very, very open to really changing that. And for us, we don't like to talk about problem all the time because it's a lot of energy. It saps and it drains energy out of you to talk about the problem all the time. I'm an engineer, and as engineers, we are very big on solutions. So let's address this rather than, talk about it. We've talked about it long enough. We've talked about the underrepresentation of women in STEM, the underrepresentation of people of color in these areas, women of color, women from CALD. Now let's fix it. So I'm all about fixing the problem.
Yeah. Now I've got a question for you. Do you have any role models? Who do you look up to?
That's a very interesting question. You said that. Last year, when I received the Women's Agenda Award for Emerging Leader in STEM, the theme was, you can't be what you can't see. During my speech, I told them, for some of us, unfortunately, we can't even see what we want to be. Because when we try to think, who is the person or who is the woman that looks like us that's, doing stuff, it's hard to see. But what I've come to do is to reimagine in my mind as a young girl, what would I like to see and try to be that to other people? That's not to say there are women that I do not admire. There are a couple of women that I do admire. I have a lot of respect for Dr. Rwangi Fernando, who is my co-founder. She's also the founder of STEM Sisters. Rwangi is just very empathetic. She is an authentic leader and, very passionate about women of color in STEM. I have a lot of admiration and respect for Dr. Margaret Evans-Gala. She's the co-founder of Women in STEM Australia. Maggie is one of those people that I would say, and Maggie, if you're listening to this, I'm serious, I always say that to you. She is not just interested in mentorship, but she's really, really interested in sponsorship. And there's a huge difference. Mentorship is telling someone, this is what you need to do to get where you need to go. But sponsorship is saying, look, this is what you need to do to get where you need to go. But I'm going to open some doors and I'm going to create room. I'm going to give you some leverage for you to stand on my shoulders, really standing on the shoulders of giants. So I really admire Maggie in that way. And from history, I admire a lot Marie Curie, the sciences, because like she was ahead of her time. She obviously received 2 Nobel awards for chemistry, for physics. In fact, in history, she is the person that has no one has ever received 2 in 2 separate fields of science. So she's someone that I really, really, I resonate a lot with her journey. So there are so many other women that I hold in high esteem, but yeah, these are some women that I really admire. And of course, my late mom, my mother-in-law, we are best friends, and these are women that I really admire.
How do you define leadership?
Authenticity, vulnerability. Previously, we like to see leaders as you have to be all very tough, all very strong, and, suit up, which is true, which is good. But for me, I have a lot of respect and admiration for leaders who are authentic. And what do I call authentic? Sometimes we have to also embrace vulnerability and understand that there is a lot of strength in vulnerability. Life exists in dual, the yin yang, light as a wave, light as a particle. There's always 2 of everything. So the problem is this: if you see leadership only from this tough angle, there is no balance. And when there's no balance, it's going to crumble. Everything in life has to balance, plus, minus, it has to balance. And that's where you really have stability. So for me, that's how I see leadership. I admire leaders that obviously they inspire by strength, by, being, because of course, the people who you're leading has to be able to see that, right? But at the same time, when you don't have all the answers, are you vulnerable to say, look, I don't know it all?
Yeah.
And are you able to work with your team to learn? I don't see leadership where someone is just, in front and then the other people are like, I'm here and you're here. No. Let's work together. Let's partner. Let's bring all ideas on board. And then it's not about my idea or your idea. So the leader is really that person who can bring all those ideas together, filter, and see what's the best idea for the group, not what is my idea or your idea. And that's how I see leadership. And that's the kind of leader that every day I aspire to be.
Would you classify yourself as a leader?
Yes, I am. I am a leader because everything that I do is really at the heart of making life. Look, I want to have a legacy where when people think about the name Dr. Morley Muse, they're able to say, yes, oh, that woman, she really changed how workplaces operate. She really changed how women in STEM are viewed. She really changed how women of color, are viewed. Oh, she helped me to build my confidence. And I don't have to know all these people, So a leader is someone who can, remind us the seed we have inside of us and give us, someone whose words, whose actions, whose lifestyle acts like the water that waters that seed. It's already inside of us, but gives us that, what's the word? Gives us that right to really be ourselves. You see, one of my best poems is a poem called Our Deepest Fear. It was recited by Nelson Mandela during his inauguration speech. Yeah. But it was originally written by a poet called Marianne Williamson. And it goes and it says, our deepest fear is not that we are incapable. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. That it's our light and not our darkness that most frightens us. And then it goes on and on. And it says, when we allow our lights to shine, we subconsciously give others to do same. That's who a leader is. That's who a leader is in my definition. So do I do that? Do I live that? To the best of my knowledge and my ability, I do. And so, yes, I do see myself as a leader. Besides, of course, all of the boards, memberships, and everything that I do, my legacy is really to aspire young girls to be whatever they desire to be without any limitations or restrictions, regardless of their background, ethnicity, race, or wherever they come from, regardless of anything. Just if you can dream it, you can be it.
Yeah. What is that the advice you would give young women?
That's it. The advice I'll give young women also is, don't give up at the very first chance of opposition or difficulty. You know, you have to understand that life in itself is a journey, and little drops of water make an ocean. Yeah. So one thing is, just like a baby, when the baby wants to learn to walk, the baby would crawl, fall. So don't feel bad. The times that you failed, look, failure is only a part of the process. Like I said earlier at the beginning, in life, I go by, this is my mantra, yes, no, maybe. And they're all very good answers.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, it's maybe what you want to hear. No, just keep at it. You most likely get a yes. Or change direction.
Yeah.
Look elsewhere. Maybe you have to walk a little bit, fine-tune things, and then you could get a yes. So, you know, my advice to young girls is, if you can, visualize your dream, write it somewhere, stick it on your mirror, stick it where you can see it. I'll show you stuff. So in my office, I've got these 3 girls. Yeah.
Cool. Oh my God.
Cute. I see them every day.
Yeah.
Right? And they remind me that, look, this is who I am, not who someone else defines me to be. And I'll show you one. That one is the most important one to me. So this was gotten from a Happy Meal. And when I saw it, I told my boys, I'm stealing this from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I call this my mini avatar.
Yeah.
This girl helped me to finish my PhD when I was grieving the loss of my mom and 2 late sisters, raising kids. And it was just so incredibly difficult. Trust me, even my colleagues that are men, some of them couldn't hold, jobs while doing that PhD. It's a very difficult journey. And that's not to say I'm a superwoman, even though I, tend to, have this superwoman, Wonder Woman. But every single day when I saw the grit, the determination on the face of this cartoon, it reminded me of what I should be. And so I've held on to this since 2019.
Wow.
I think I'll hold on to it till the day I close my eyes. Because then every single day it would remind me of where I need to be.
Yeah.
So that's my advice to young girls.
Yeah.
You should have a vision board. If you can see it, you can be it. Don't just imagine it in your mind. Have a picture of where you want to be. Have a roadmap. Have mentors. Very, very important.
Yeah.
You know, reach out to women who have done it and say, hey, would you be happy to mentor me? I have a couple of young girls like that. One young girl, which really warms my heart. So she's gotten an offer to study biomedical science at the University of Melbourne now. But look, she told me, she said, oh, I really wanted to study engineering, but in year 10, my physics teacher said to me that I shouldn't be the best in physics because I'm a girl in Australia. This is like 2020.
Yeah.
So I told her, no, you don't let anyone to define who you should be. Unfortunately for her, she would be the first to attend university in her family. So her parents, you know. So I told her, look, you can be the first of, you can be anything you want to be. And, you know, she went in the spirit of that, applied for scholarships and, you know, she got in. And now, you know, she's living her dream. I'm very confident of the leader that she will become. So yeah, reach out to people that can help your journey. They can only say yes, no, maybe.
Yeah. I got two final questions.
Vision board.
Yeah. The next question I've got is, what's something you don't normally tell someone about yourself?
I guess like previously, because of some of the, I don't know, maybe bias or discrimination or whatever, I experienced being a Black woman in engineering. And some people just feel like when you tell them that you're a mom, they just kind of like judge your competence.
Yeah.
So before now, I never would, you know, just say in professional spaces that I'm a mom, I'm an engineer, because I didn't want anyone to judge my work, to just say, oh, she doesn't have the time, or, you know, like, and just, you know, they call it unconscious bias, but I think in a lot of ways it's conscious bias.
Yeah.
So before now, I wouldn't like say that except I have to. But since I started iSTEM core, and really, I told myself that, but why not? You know, I'm now very, you know, I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of the family that I'm raising. I happen to have a very supportive husband. And look, you know, I'm not afraid of being myself anymore. And when I meet more women, you know, they are becoming really bold to say, yes, this is what I do. Because previously, some of the women I had met in construction, they would say things like they don't want to have kids. And when you really dig deep, it's not because they don't want to, it's just because they're afraid that if they did, then they will lose their jobs, then they wouldn't be able to come back to industry, because it's almost like a punishment when you have kids. So yes, that's something that, you know, and I never used to say to everyone, but you know, very open to share now about my journey as a mom in STEM.
Yeah. And the last question I've got is that what would you like listeners to walk away with today?
Think about the legacy that you want to leave. You know, we're all living on borrowed time on earth. It's interesting, like, you know how you hear life is a gift? For me, I really take it literally because I've lost 3 people, my mom, my 2 sisters. So for me, life is really a gift. And every single day, I don't want to waste that gift. And that's why I work with so much urgency to do what I need to do. Because I know that not everyone has the opportunity to do that. So for people listening today, you know, if you've had a very tough time, you've had a hard time, think about me, right? and just draw some strength and draw some confidence and encouragement from my journey. And look, that's not where the story ends. You know, pick up yourself, continue, and you can really be whatever you want to be. And if you're a woman in STEM looking for work, get in touch with me, and I'll do my best to see that you apply your skills to work.
I'll have all your details underneath the YouTube, you know, on the YouTube page. I'll have all your details there for people to contact you.
No worries. Thank you so much, AJ. It's been really lovely yarning with you. It's interesting you use the word yarn. We always used to say that back in Nigeria, you know. That's what we call chat. We always say, I'm yarning.
Look,
so when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, we've got, obviously, there's a lot of similarities with, you know, the indigenous culture and back home.
Well, it looks a pleasure to have you on to talk with you. I do want to actually just say goodbye to all the viewers and say thank you for actually listening. This has been Dr. Morley Muse, who is a Ph.D. doctor and a mum, and a successful mum as well. So, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again shortly. Bye.
Bye.